1. First, let me say that I believe in all things strange, odd, and bizarre. I've had plenty of crazy things happen to me in my life, and I get the glitchiest moments of déjà vu fairly often. The moment I'm writing about involved my grandma, who we will call Mama. Yes, we're in the southern part of the US, and occurred about 20 years ago. We still had a landline then, and one night my grandma called and I happened to answer the phone. When I said hello, there was a few seconds of silence. Then my mama said, in a very terse voice, "This is Hester Clark." I laughed a little, thinking she was being funny, and I said, "Hi, Mama." More silence. Then, "I don't know who you are, but you need to stop calling here." Her voice was shaking with anger. Shocked, I said, "Mama, what's going on?" She continued like she couldn't hear me. "I have a sick husband and you need to stop harassing us." I said louder, "Mama, it's me. What's going on? We didn't call you." More silence. "I did star 69, so I know you just called here, and if you don't stop, I'm going to call the police." I tried again to tell her who I was, still thoroughly confused. And that's when she hung up on me. Now, just to be clear, she was in her 70s at the time, and her mind was still sharp. She didn't drink, and wasn't on any medications. Also, no one at our house had called her that day. If she had used the infamous star 69, it certainly wouldn't have redialed us. Plus, how did she not hear that it was me that she had called? I repeatedly told her who I was. It was the strangest thing I'd ever had happen. My mom and brother blew it off, and when I asked my mama about it, she had no memory of it. So was this a glitch, and if so, was it on my end or hers? I'd never heard her voice like that, and it honestly scared me. Truly bizarre. 2. My friend Jill was in town for a couple weeks, and we went shopping downtown for a book that her friend had lent her a while before to read. Her friend had read it to her dad as he was dying, and said he became really peaceful, and the two of them connected over it. Jen liked what she read of it, and wanted to grab a copy for herself. We found the book, and Jill opened to a random page that she ended up liking and went to take a picture of it, but I stopped her because no pictures were allowed inside the store. She didn't end up buying the book from that store. So we left and shopped around a little more, and were headed back to the car before we decided to walk one more block before heading home. We ended up going into a strange Zen energy store, which had a really strange feeling to it. It just felt different in there to me. I spent most of my time inspecting different statues and petting a black lab in the store because I wasn't really into the whole Zen thing. Well, Jill talked to the workers about different statues, and the worker showed us more statues on a table in the corner. As we headed for the door to leave, the lady stopped us and gave Jill a statue and told her how important and how much it meant for her to give it to Jill. We left the store, crossed the street, and shopped around 2 other stores before heading back to the car. And the entire time I couldn't stop thinking how strange the whole situation was. Fast forward a few days, and I still couldn't stop thinking about how strange it all was. So I went back to get Jill a statue before she left, that the worker had commented on, saying how good of energy it had. But when I went to the store, I couldn't find it. I knew exactly where it was, which stores it was between, and the stores we had crossed the street to go to afterwards. But I could not find the store. I walked up and down, opening up literally every shop door looking for this store, and I could not find it. I finally decided it wasn't meant to be and left. And when I got home, I asked Jill where she remembered the store being, without telling her any of the events or where I thought it was to avoid affecting what she remembered. And she described it exactly where I remembered it being, and had just looked. The following day, my friend sent me a link to this subreddit, asking if I ever go on it, and that he had just had a random feeling that He should send it to me and felt I'd understand it, along with having a pretty crazy glitch experience of his own and events that connected with what I was going through. Fast forward a few more days and I couldn't stop thinking about why I couldn't find the store and how weird everything connected together, so my roommate went with me to find the store. But we still could not find it anywhere Jill and I remembered it being. We ended up going into the bookstore Jill and I had been to the week before to look at the book and see if it was still the same or if everything was different, for my sanity's sake. We found the book, and I told my roommate to tell me if I'm crazy. But all of this was super weird, and I opened the book to a random page, and it connected that something was up. So I opened the book, and of course, it fit perfectly, along with being the same exact page that Jill had first opened in the store, and my roommate now being the one to stop me from taking the picture of it like I had done to Jill. After buying the book and walking another block, we had finally given up on finding the store and left to go back to the car, when suddenly we looked to our right, and there was the store, right across the street from where Jill and I remember it being. In between the two stores that we had went to after crossing the street. At this point I started visibly shaking and gathered myself for a moment before going in, and right away felt the store had a different vibe than before. A much more commercialized store feel rather than a strange Zen feel. I went to look at the statues, and exactly like before, a lady came up to me and showed me other statues they had on a table in the corner. As I'm looking at the statues, I notice that they're all different. Slight, but definitely different. They are now mostly hollow rather than solid, and have square labels with computer-typed prices, rather than circle tags with pen marking the price. The only statue that was the exact same was the one the lady said had really good energy, but it was now 25% off because they had so many in stock. I grabbed the exact one the lady commented on and took it to the counter, and the first thing the cashier said to me when I went to pay was, "Is this a gift for someone?" But it was very direct, like she knew the answer before asking it, more of a statement rather than question. I stuttered because it was supposed to be, but I ended up spitting out, "No." And the lady just looked at me kind of surprised that I said no and replied, "Oh," like it was different than she was expecting. After I stared at her in shock for a few seconds, she looked back up and said she was just wondering because she could wrap it for me. As I'm standing there, I can't stop thinking that I'd regret it if I didn't get it as a gift, so I apologized and had the lady gift wrap it for me. As we're leaving the store, a strange guy walked in who just seemed oddly familiar to me. And like me, he looked really confused and in a daze. After walking around a little bit, the guy just sat in the middle of the store floor and petted the dog that was there. Which is when I realized that the dog was now a yellow lab, rather than a black lab. Even more confused, we finally leave the store and get back to the car, when I realize there's a bookmark in the book, which of course is marking a page that fits the situation perfectly. Come to find out after talking to Jill that it was the same page that first made her feel connected to the book, along with being the exact page that Jill's friend had felt her dad become at peace and felt a connection with him. I drove myself pretty much insane trying to find a logical explanation for what happened, but I couldn't. I've summed it up as a sort of religious, mystical experience, or a glitch at this point. And ever since I've been noticing other slight glitches and Mandela effects, Hurricane Katrina, Tiananmen Square, Fruit Loops Febreze, Bernstein, Chick-fil-A, to name a few. I left out details to protect the innocent, as well as to try and keep it from being less of a book. If you have any questions or want further explanation on anything, let me know. 3. I remember when I was younger, before I even knew anything about hospitals, babies, or even what a hospital gown looked like. there was a very clear memory. You might be thinking, oh, it might be a dream, but I usually forget those. Hell, I would forget even if I ate yesterday. But I remember walking down this white hallway with a woman. I guess she was a nurse because I remember her wearing blue scrubs. I remember walking into a room. The room had one of those hospital beds, of course, but there was no other bed. There was a monitor set right by it. It was making the room glow a slightly dark blue color. The nurse made me lay down on the hospital bed, and another woman walked in. She was wearing a long white coat. So all I could think of was that she was pretty and she had long hair that was in a very low ponytail. She took a little bottle, opened the cap. The bottle was also blue, but it was bright blue. I remember her lifting up my shirt to where my stomach was showing, and the gel that was in it being cold. Then her turning the monitor on for sure, and pressing a little handle thing against my stomach. I really don't know how to describe it. I remember it feeling like beads as she moved it around on my stomach. She was looking at the screen of the monitor the whole time. She was pointing out at little lines and saying, "There's a leg, there's an arm." I told my mom about it and she brushed it off, thinking that I was maybe watching something on TV like that with my babysitter. But I have asked my babysitter about it just yesterday, and she said that all we watched was kids' shows like Sesame Street or just little movies about Elmo or Rugrats. But I can remember it like it was yesterday. I find it weird. I never thought much of it until I was listening to Glitches in the Matrix, and that memory kept popping into my head. 4. I study at a university a couple of miles from where I live, so I take the metro every day. Because of my frequent commute, I know the metro system by heart. The names of every stop and the times of departure and arrival are engraved in my brain. The metro makes 9 stops on the way to uni, and the journey takes about 17 minutes. I usually read something to kill the time, like the news or a book. It distracts me from people going out and coming in at each stop. I don't really notice the stopping at all, but I instinctively know when to quit reading and get off, because it's been 17 minutes. So, a couple of months ago, it was the end of the day and I took the metro home. I sat down, grabbed a newly gotten book from my bag. The doors closed and the metro started riding. I started reading the first chapter. After a significant amount of time, I was about 15 pages into the book. I got the feeling that I had to get off. I felt the carriage decelerating, and figured this was my stop. I looked up at the LED information panel and it said the metro hadn't arrived at its first stop yet. There were still 9 stops to go. Highly disoriented, I looked at the time. Turns out only 2 minutes had passed since I got onto the train. Yet in this time I had read almost the first whole chapter of my book. I skipped through the pages I read, and yes, I definitely read every single page, without skipping over any sentence. This definitely wouldn't have taken 2 minutes to read. It was like time had stopped for a full 15 minutes, or perhaps like I had somehow jumped back in time. I rode the rest of the commute feeling kinda freaked out and disoriented, and that feeling stuck with me when I got home. This is, as far as I know, the only time something like this has happened to me, and it still freaks me out thinking about it, because I feel like there's no logical explanation. 5. We were on a family holiday in Mallorca in about 1993, a Spanish island. We had a family cat and dog that stayed at a sort of pet hotel while we were off. On the first Wednesday of our holiday, our mum woke up really weirded out. She'd had a strange dream that our cat had escaped from the place we had left her. Naturally, being young, I was around 13 and my sister 9, we mocked her mum as she was really upset that her cat was lost. Dad just thought she was being silly. For the rest of the holiday, all Mum wanted to do was check on the cat, but we kept telling her it was just a dream. Cut to the day we get back home, our voicemail, remember those, has a message from the pet hotel. The first Tuesday we were away, one of the sit-down Moors had accidentally damaged the kennel the cat was housed in. She had indeed escaped. We all just looked at each other, stunned. It didn't make any sense how our mum could possibly have known this, especially via a dream, and 1,000+ miles away. And we never saw the cat again. A couple of years later, I was milling around in our lounge. Mum got up, said to me, "I've had the strangest dream. There's been a horrible plane crash in India." Again, I mocked her and put on teletext, a pre-internet service for news and sport. And there was nothing about it. I don't know how much time passed, but the news came on the TV, and again my jaw dropped. A major plane crash in India was being reported. Like many reports, my mind tends to want to shrug these incidents off. I've had a number of my own déjà vus, glitches. Again, they may just be coincidences. Or there may be something else going on. For what it's worth, I'm an atheist, so I don't think there's any higher power at work. Back again in the 90s, I had a really intense dream. I was driving to the nearby town. I lived pretty out in the sticks, so you have to drive 30+ minutes to get to the main shops for clothes and games, etc. I was driving on the back road, listening to some music on the radio. I spot a car coming the other way, and it's my best mate. He's got his mum with him. I showed him a wave and look in the rear view, and he's waved back. For some reason, I lose control of the car and smash into a ditch. In my head, I'm thinking, oh fuck, I'm dead. It all goes white, and I wake up startled in bed. I think to myself, shit, that's a strange dream. Wait until I tell my bud about it. A few days later, I go and see him. I say, I had a crazy dream the other day. He says, can't be any crazier than the dream I had about driving my mum and watching you die in the rear view mirror. I look at him, like before with the glitches with my mum, jaw on the floor. What's wrong? He asks. Dude, that was the same dream I had. We discuss the details. It's all the same car, same part of the road, and the same result. How can two separate people have the same dream on the same night, from two perspectives? In 2001, I lived in London. I had my dream job at 21. Life was pretty good. I used to take the bus everywhere as the tube was way too expensive. It wasn't the most pleasant day, overcast, and not that warm. I was on the bus, just getting to Westminster. When I remembered it was my mum's birthday, I cursed myself for forgetting again. I hadn't got her a card or anything. I thought there's literally no way I'll ever remember the date of my mum's birthday. Strangely, I don't remember any of her birthdays before this one. I've only just realized this as I write. As soon as I think of this, my stomach feels like someone is squeezing it from the inside. My body runs cold. I have an urge to look over at the city and the Thames. I feel like there's a voice in my head. You shouldn't have thought that. Not today. I'm in pain for about 10 minutes. This feeling of doom feels like it's coming over in waves. Like it's the universe doing it to me. I remember this so vividly. Then it just passes. I get to work. We head off to Portsmouth, on the south coast of England. About an hour after we are working, we start to hear the news. It's September 11th, 2001. New York is under attack. America is under attack. Yet again, my blood freezes. My mind is back on the bus. Not today, I remember the voice in my head saying. We saw nothing of that day. We had to work. We were probably one of a handful of people in the world that didn't see anything that day. I'd go back to the car and listen to 5 Live, but we had work to do. It wasn't until I got home in the early hours I saw the footage, the jumpers, the towers, the planes. Confusion. The horror. Did something so horrible reach back in time 5 hours and gut punch me? Did anyone else experience anything like this before it happened? July 2007. I'm still living in London. The day after it's announced that London will host the Olympics, yet another cold, drizzly day. I'm annoyed because the tram I usually get is delayed. I'm starting to miss home, so London is annoying me. No buses either. Instead of waiting, I walk to the train station. I often get a particular tube line, but I see the line, the color of the line, green, and I get a chill. I decide to get a train and go to another tube line. I have never done this before, ever. I always got the tube line. I get off the train at the station. I want to get the next tube. This station is closed. Now I'm really mad. I could get the bus, but I see one. And like with the green line, I get an odd feeling. I decide to walk. It's a pretty long walk. About 2.5 miles, but I think, fuck it, I'm already late. I'm walking. I get to about 1 minute from the office, and I hear a loud noise. There's lots of construction work in the area, so you get used to it. This sounds different. I'd already had a call from the office from them saying there had been an electrical explosion. I know enough to know that isn't possible. I'd already guessed it was terrorism. I walk into the office and see everyone's face. We all had a TV at our desk for work. They're all watching the news in horror. I talk to my boss and tell her I think I heard a bomb go off, and she says no, they're all on the tube. Then, minutes later, a report comes on saying a bus exploded. Bear in mind, to this point, I'd seen almost nothing of what had happened. I see the picture of the bus a few minutes later. I get a flash to the moment I saw the bus, and knew not to get one. I also see one of the tube stations that was bombed, Edgware Road. I would have been at Edgware Road about the time it was attacked. I'm left in a daze. Twice I had a gut feeling not to go a route I normally would take. I travelled a route I'd never done previously, never even considered. I got the district line every day. I had no reason to change it. Doing so that day could well have saved my life. I've had a number of smaller incidents, the usual, picking up a phone before it rings and knowing who's about to call. Minor déjà vus. My sister, however, has the most intense, and according to her, very real dreams. She likens it to living in the dreams in another dimension. She has pages and pages of things that happen. Really mad, mixed up stuff. But nothing like her mum. And to a lesser extent, me. I'm not sure if these make any sense to you guys. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I'm not the greatest at remembering these glitches. Most of them are really old memories from me. But I thought someone might be interested. These are all 100% true. I haven't embellished. And I'm happy to answer as many questions as I can. Edit. I just remembered another oddity. One morning, I was getting ready to go to work. We had a dog. She was always sickly. I think the runt of the litter. She suffered from seizures and was deaf and part blind. But she was the sharpest dog we ever had. A sense of smell like you wouldn't believe, and generally very loving. I looked over to her. She was asleep. But as soon as I looked at her, she shot me a look. A look I've never seen before. I knew I wouldn't see her again. I knew she was going to die that day. I went over to her and stroked her head. She looked at me again as if to say, "Thanks. Goodbye." I got strangely emotional. I thought to myself, you're being ridiculous. She will be fine. I go to work, and it's a normal day. Later on, I return home. My mum greets me, and I see she's been crying. She tells me that our dog had a seizure today. She wouldn't come out of it, so they rushed her to the vet. The vet said that she was suffering and advised they put her down. I was both shocked and not. I'd already said goodbye to her, but I was still heartbroken. I'm sure she knew it was the end. I don't think this is a glitch, but it's something that still lives with me, and it still upsets me. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here. and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories, Episode 8. Sorry it's been a week or so since I did one of these videos, but I've decided I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to make sure I can get the best stories available, and that way the videos are in general better. And I'm sure you guys do understand that. I mean, there are always going to be people that complain no matter what I put out. I mean, I've even had a couple of people complain recently that I should take more care in picking stories because they personally didn't happen to enjoy a particular story I did. But you can't please everyone, there's really no point in trying. Do forgive my belly aching, I guarantee you. I'm not in a bad mood or anything, it just popped into my head as I was talking there. Good news to those of you who enjoy the TIFU videos, that's the embarrassing stories. If you haven't heard them, check them out, it's a nice way to lighten up the Saturday. I have 4 so far, so I don't think I'll have any problem getting another one, so we'll have one of those on Saturday. Always a good way to round out the week for me, that. And fairy tale fans, I've picked out The Ugly Duckling. I'm going to do a reading of that. Now, I'm going to have to check to make sure I haven't done it before, because I've done quite a few. So I'll check, and if I haven't done The Ugly Duckling, then that's what I'll do next. I did get a request for, what was it called? Let me check here. Epic of Gilgamesh. I think I might do a reading of that as well. That won't be happening too soon, but I have found a public domain version of that. Translation was published in 1901 by William Muss Arnold. So I'll be using that particular translation whenever I get round to doing it. See, I've got a lot of ideas in my head for things I want to do, and I'm not sure what I should talk about, what I shouldn't, because I might change my mind. For example, I keep telling myself I'm going to start recording a Christmas carol for Christmas. And I keep saying, I'm going to do Sherlock Holmes at some point, because most of those are in public domain. And so many things I want to try, so many things. And some of those might come to fruition, others might not, so we'll see what's what. Okay, and with that, I think I'm going to head off now. I'm actually going to start work on the paranormal video right now, get that done for Friday. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.